Dr. Grandpatrick. The Redheads, Unforgettable Grandpa's Fairy Tales. Chapter 20. The Dawn of New Beginnings. The first rays of dawn streamed through the canopy, bathing the Heartwood forest in a soft, golden light. The air carried the earthy scent of rain-soaked soil and the lingering freshness of the storm of ages, which had tested the resolve of all who called this forest home. Now, a calm serenity enveloped the Heartwood, as if every leaf, blade of grass, and creature breathed a collective sigh of relief. The Redheads gathered around the Heartwood tree, their faces etched with exhaustion yet radiant with quiet triumph. Their unity had turned the tide, not just for themselves but for every soul thriving under the forest's ancient canopy. Dara, their wise and steadfast grandfather, stood at the circle's center. His gaze swept over each of them, his expression a blend of pride and affection. "My dear Redheads," he began, his voice warm with emotion, "you have accomplished more than I ever dared to dream. You've shown that true strength doesn't lie in magic alone, but in unity, courage, and the love you hold for each other and this sacred forest." A gentle breeze whispered through the trees, rustling the leaves in a melody of gratitude. It felt as though the Heartwood tree itself was offering its thanks for their bravery. Finn, the fair-haired warrior, stepped forward, his features softened by the morning glow. "I've always known we were protectors, but this battle, it made me see just how much we're a family. Together, we're unstoppable." His words carried the weight of sincerity, his usual stoic demeanor brightened by an undercurrent of gratitude as he glanced at his companions. Maeve, the ever-cheerful spark of the group, chuckled, her laugh clear and bright like birdsong. Unstoppable and, dare I say, a little magical. She reached up to touch one of the Heartwood tree's ancient leaves, her fingertips tracing its intricate veins. "The forest gave back as much as we gave it. Maybe more." Ronan, the thinker, nodded thoughtfully. It was more than just a storm, it was a test. A reminder that even in moments of peace, we need to stay vigilant. Stay connected, to this forest and to each other. The Redheads exchanged nods, their bond deepened by shared purpose. They had always understood their role was about balance, between magic and nature, between their lives and the land they swore to protect. Aisling, her dreamy eyes alight with curiosity, turned to Dara. "Do you think the Heartwood tree knew," she asked, her gentle voice imbued with wonder, "that it brought us together for this purpose?" Dara's face softened into a knowing smile. "The Heartwood tree is older than any of us can comprehend. It has witnessed centuries of change and felt the footsteps of countless creatures who have passed through this forest. I believe it called each of you here for a reason. You're not just connected to it, you're bound by something ancient and unbreakable." A reverent hush fell over the group. Dara's words resonated deeply, planting themselves in their hearts. They had always sensed it, that their lives and purpose were intricately tied to the magic of the Heartwood tree. After a moment of reflection, Ian spoke, his voice steady and clear. "If the Heartwood tree chose us, then it's not just about today. It's about tomorrow and every day that follows. We are its guardians, and that's not just a duty, it's a gift." As his words settled over the group, a small creature darted out from the bushes, a young fox, its eyes bright with curiosity. It hesitated, glancing at the Redheads, before scurrying over to the Heartwood tree and curling up against its roots. The sight brought smiles to their faces, each taking it as a sign, a gentle reminder of why they did what they did. Dara raised his hand, motioning for silence. "Before we leave this place, let us each take a moment to speak a promise to the Heartwood tree, a vow that we will carry forward." One by one, they stepped forward, placing a hand on the Heartwood tree and speaking their promises. "I promise to protect this forest with all my strength," Finn said, his voice strong and unwavering. "I promise to bring joy and laughter, even in the hardest times," Maeve added, her eyes shining with her usual mischief. "I promise to think before I act, to make choices that honor this land," Ronan said solemnly, his hand resting gently on the tree's bark. Each Redhead made their vow, their words blending with the sounds of the forest, their promises becoming part of the magic that pulsed through the Heartwood tree. Finally, it was Dara's turn. He placed both hands on the tree, closed his eyes, and spoke in a voice that was both ancient and filled with love. "I promise to pass on the stories of this forest, to keep its memory alive, so that future generations will know the beauty, the magic, and the courage of the Redheads." As he spoke, a gentle warmth spread through the ground, radiating outward from the heartwood tree and enveloping them all. It was a feeling of acceptance, of gratitude, as if the forest itself were acknowledging their promises and binding them together. With their vows made, the Redheads turned to leave the heartwood tree, ready to return to their lives within the forest. They knew that they would always be its protectors, its guardians, and that they would carry the lessons of this night with them forever. As they walked through the forest, they noticed subtle changes. The leaves seemed greener, the flowers more vibrant, and the birds sang with a joy that hadn't been there before. It was as if the forest itself was celebrating their victory, rejoicing in the peace that had been restored. Aoife, ever the observant one, noticed something glinting in the morning light. She knelt down and picked up a small, perfectly round stone, its surface smooth and warm to the touch. "Look at this," she said, showing it to the others. "It's beautiful, like a gift from the forest." The others gathered around, marveling at the stone. It was simple, yet it seemed to hold a quiet power, a reminder of the strength they had found within themselves. "We should each find something to remember this day," suggested Dara, his voice thoughtful. "A symbol of what we accomplished." And so, they each found a token, an acorn, a feather, a flower petal, or a smooth pebble. These small objects became their reminders, their symbols of the bond they shared and the promises they had made. As the sun climbed higher, casting its golden light over the heartwood forest, the Redheads made their way back to their village. They were met with cheers and laughter, as the animals and creatures of the forest gathered to welcome them home. That night, beneath a sky strewn with stars, they celebrated with a grand feast. Their laughter echoed through the trees, mingling with the forest's natural symphony, a harmony of joy and gratitude. Tales of their battle were shared around the fire, each Redhead recounting the trials they faced and the strength they discovered within themselves and in each other. As the flames flickered and the night deepened, Dara shared one final story, a tale of courage, friendship, and the unbreakable connection between the Redheads and the heartwood forest. His voice carried through the cool night air, wrapping them in a blanket of peace. The Redheads felt it deeply, a sense of unity and purpose. They understood that their journey was far from over. Challenges would come, storms would brew, but they were ready. Together, they were a force no trial could weaken, a family no hardship could divide. And so, under the shimmering light of the stars, their hearts brimming with love and their spirits fortified, the Redheads embraced the dawn of what lay ahead. For they were more than protectors, they were a family, bonded by love, courage, and the enduring magic of the heartwood forest. Conclusion. The fire was low, casting the room in a soft, flickering glow as Grandpa leaned back in his chair, hands resting on his lap, like he'd just wrapped up the greatest story ever told, and maybe he had. Ian sat beside him, his eyes so wide you'd think the Redheads were about to storm in, armed with hairbrushes and battle cries. For a moment, the room was quiet, except for the occasional pop of the firewood. Then Ian broke the silence, his voice soft but thoughtful. "Grandpa, you know. Aiden's already big, and he doesn't believe in fairy tales anymore." Grandpa leaned back in his chair, his eyebrows shooting up like it had a life of its own. "Doesn't believe in fairy tales. Poor lad. Must be the potatoes. Never trust a diet without enough magic in it." Ian giggled but quickly straightened up. "How about yourself, Ian?" Grandpa asked, his eyes sparkling mischievously. Ian grinned, bouncing in his seat as if he might take off. "Oh, I do. Totally. And when I grow up, I'm going to be a redhead too." Grandpa let out a hearty laugh, ruffling Ian's hair. "Well, you'll need to grow a bit first, and maybe learn to keep a secret. Imagine telling the cows about the heartwood forest. They'll be demanding magic hay next." Ian's giggles turned into full-blown laughter, echoing through the cozy room. Grandpa watched him, his smile softening. The world's still got hope," he murmured, his voice warm. And with that, Ian grabbed his pillow, already spinning dreams of adventures in the heartwood forest, while Grandpa sat back, content to let the magic linger just a little longer.